If you give me particle effects, I will go to frickin' town, man. Uh-huh. Well, I don't know what the happy ending is here, because it seems that the dead guy is not having a good time, but I try to be.
All the times bits of some of the songs and even full tracks such as the first song on the album which have leaked. But the full album still Scare PewDiePie Season 2. This was a planned continuation of PewDiePie's YouTube Red original series, and was actually fully filmed to this infamous video in which PewDiePie did, well, if you know, you know. I'm not trying to get demonetized here. Pointer wanted to associate with PewDiePie and canceled the project. So it seems footage or even episodes of this season are unlikely to ever surface in any official manner. Unless, you know, someone leaks it, but even PewDiePie himself said he couldn't release any of the— This is an experimental track created by the famous rock band The Beatles that was said to be somewhere around 14 minutes in length and was only ever played at 2 events ever, but was still nonetheless recorded in 1967. But has still never been officially released and remains lost to this day. Although Paul McCartney has stated that he still has the master tapes in a 2008 interview, and it seems like he's just looking for the right option. I can kind of see why. It's a really experimental track from what I hear, and I mean, these are the same guys that did Revolution 9, remember, and that actually got released. So who really knows how weird this song is. But McCartney himself described it by saying, quote, "Hit a drum, then wander onto the piano, hit a few notes, and just wander around." So yeah, maybe we will see a release of this song in the future, but for now, it remains Beatles Lost Media. Columbine Doomwad. Well, yikes. Not gonna talk too much about this, but basically this is an alleged WAD, or basically a custom level for the game Doom. Pretty disturbing stuff. Kurt Cobain's Ren and Stimpy song. Of the famous rock band Nirvana was a huge fan of the cartoon series Ren and Stimpy. So much so, in fact, that he wanted to write a song for the show. And this was even before he was famous, before Nirvana had their breakout hit. And this is all based on a story, he didn't end up using it, as they really had no idea who he was at the time. A pretty crazy story, but this is the only evidence that this even happened, and the song has never been found. Eazy-E, Heat Melts Cube. Here we go again, I guess. So this is a lost diss track that may or may not even exist, created by Eazy-E in the 90s, targeted at Ice Cube, hence the title. However, the two did actually reconcile before Eazy-E's death in 1995, and so it's possible that this diss track, or EP if some have claimed it to be, was not released due to the grain of salt. But still, this EP or diss track have never surfaced. Nirvana, Opinion. This is another partially lost song from Nirvana, in that there is a 1990 live recording, but not a studio version, as this was one of the earliest songs the group ever produced. However, in the documentary Cobain Montage of Heck, a short snippet of a different version of the track was used, which has never resurfaced in its entirety. Also known as 15,000 Drawings in English, or 15 mil dibujos. This animated film dates all the way back to the late 30s and early 40s, and was created in Chile, and apparently was even seen by Walt Disney himself, which motivated the director and his team to finish this passion project that was done by only one guy and his family and friends, with the showcased in a documentary, and some test footage has also been found, but the full film remains lost. Known as José Onfroy was a rapper who was tragically killed in the summer of 2018, despite having a huge career ahead of him. But he started from pretty humble beginnings, posting his songs on places like SoundCloud and Facebook, which unsurprised 2013. And a lot of these songs and EPs are even known about, as can be seen on this list. Final Fantasy 64. Also called Final Fantasy VI, the interactive CG game, never released. This game demo was shown off at an event called SIGGRAPH 95, and there is a recording of the gameplay. However, again for the N64 we have another game, this time a port of the original Grand Theft Auto, which was actually said to feature new stuff, not just a standard port, including new levels and better graphics. The game was shown off at E3. A little while after, the game was officially cancelled, and no builds of the game or even any gameplay at all have surfaced. All we really... Ravenholm was the working title of a game in the Half-Life series that was being developed in 2007 and 2008 by Arcane Studios, not Valve. And in this game, you would play as protagonist Adrian Shepard from Half-Life Opposing Force, who would work alongside Father Grigori. But sadly, this project was cancelled with only about a year left in development. However, pretty recent, it showed quite a lot of gameplay for the title. Drake and Josh pilot. Before the pilot episode of Drake and Josh, the hit Nickelodeon sitcom aired in January of 2004, there was not much is different plot-wise in the episode, but the main difference is that the character, Walter Nichols, was portrayed by a different actor, Stephen Furst rather than Jonathan Goldstein. As of now, there are only a few short clips of the episode as well as screenshots of the Vision series. This time the CGI animated series Super Y, which had an original pilot made for it back in 1999. However, the pilot episode has never been released since, with no footage surfacing of it online. But in February of 2021, the theme song for the pilot was actually found. So for now, all we have are screenshots and these pieces of audio. Backyardigans Pilots, with an S, yeah. Friends, and another CGI animated pilot based on that first one created in 2002. And yeah, surprisingly, both of them are lost. For Me and My Friends, their actual episode is nowhere to be found. As for the second CGI pilot made in 2002, well, this one is said to follow a similar structure to that clip, as well as some screenshots that are available. Sailor Mouth Uncensored. The absolute classic SpongeBob episode. Ever since it was first released, people have theorized that somewhere out there was a cut of the episode with a cut of the episode. This was only further fueled by the fact that SpongeBob voice actor Tom Kenny said that they tried using other words in place of the swears, but audio tracks without censoring do exist. But it's unlikely that we will ever get to hear them, unfortunately. Although there are compilations on YouTube of the SpongeBob voice actor. Saban Moon. This is cool because this was just recently found by Lost Media YouTuber Ray Mona, who created a really in-depth and just overall really well-made video about the topic and how she acquired this lost pilot episode, which was a proof of concept that was never aired and was an adaptation of the Sailor Moon manga and anime series. However, this series was never picked up, but in 2022, Raymona did actually acquire a copy of the pilot through her documentary on that process. Ludwig van Beethoven, sheet music. So, this dude lived in the 1700s, so yeah. A lot of his lost pieces do have some fragments that have survived, however, or they have been recreated, or sometimes certain parts or certain instruments from his orchestral pieces have been found, but either way, just lost to time. Meso Blues. This is another really iconic and recognized piece of lost media, but if you haven't heard of it, I'll give you the rundown. This was an animated short created by Van Partible in 1993. However, that original short is lost, and only short clips exist that could be found as a feature in season 1 of Johnny Bravo. And those clips are actually muted. And Van Partible even revealed that he had no plans on releasing the short, although he does have a copy which he occasionally shows to friends and students in his animation classes. Batman vs. Dracula. Dracula to fight Batman. Sounds kinda wild, but this is actually one of 3 Batman Dracula movies. What the hell? But sadly, not much else is known about the film, and it is entirely lost. No footage of the film exists online as of yet, but there is this theatrical poster, as well as other photos of the film itself in black and white. Be not too long after that it would be cancelled and kind of forgotten, sadly, despite quite a bit of work being done on the game. They even showed full gameplay footage, and for the time it looked pretty good, and it was also interesting and notable for having an M for mature rating planned, as the story was going to have darker and more mature themes, and you would even play as Boba Fett, which is pretty cool. But yeah, after Disney acquired Star Wars, LucasArts shut down the whole project, and no builds of the game have leaked online. Created sometime in the early 70s, this was an experimental album of Pink Floyd's that was never released. And like the title suggests, the songs in this album were made using random objects you could find around your house, be it beer bottles, wine glasses, notably the song Wine Glasses, which, you guessed it, uses audio from a wine glass, although it doesn't necessarily sound like it. Attack of the Killer Rabbits from Outer Space, also called Killer Freaks from Outer Space, was a first-person shooter. Yeah, pretty crazy. Eventually though, the devs realized that this kind of violent, horror-themed FPS was not suited for a kid-friendly franchise like Rabbids, which led to the name change to Killer Freaks from Outer Space, which even got a reveal trailer. However, the idea was further reworked into Zombie U for the Wii U, and later released as just Zombie on other consoles. Shrek Chris Farley version. Oh boy, here we go. So everyone knows about the movie Shrek, and most people would recognize the voice of Mike Myers for the titular character. But before he landed the role, Chris Farley was going to be the original voice actor, and even recorded many lines for an early version of Shrek, before his untimely passing in 1997. Which led to Shrek having to be recast, and even a whole new design and direction for the movie. Now, not all of the footage and audio right here on YouTube. Metroid Dread. While this game may have been released somewhat recently in 2021 for the Nintendo Switch, this game has actually had a long and storied development going on handheld console. But this version was never finished, and no builds of the game have ever surfaced online. Hey Arnold, the Jungle Movie. Okay, I know I keep saying this, and I'll stop from now on. I'm sorry, but God, bro, I gotta apologize. Animated series that was supposed to be released in originally 2002. But instead, Nickelodeon opted for Arnold Saves the Neighborhood. Although eventually, many years later, they would actually make the Jungle Movie, and it would release in 2017. However, this version is different from the one that was worked on in the early 2000s, and all we have from that original project is a 40-second test animation. The animated series Dexter's Laboratory, which aired in 1997. And kind of like Sailor Mouth, this episode featured a lot of censored swearing, which never actually aired on Cartoon Network due to fear of backlash, and before it was even discovered in its censored format over the years. And some have even claimed that an uncensored version was also shown, and it was confirmed to exist in 2017 by Craig McCracken, although this version has not surfaced. Sonic the Hedgehog demo, Tokyo Toy Show 1990. This was a Sonic prototype build, one of the earliest in fact, and was shown off in June of 1990 as a playable tech demo. However, this version had a couple notable differences from the final version of the game, seen back then in 1990, and despite other Sonic prototypes leaking online in the past, this one still remains lost to this day. Mario Takes America. What a title. This lost and cancelled Mario game was one meant for the great Philips CDI console. You know, the one with gems such as these. It was created as an edutainment game which would have Mario exploring different places around the US, such as New York and Hollywood, and it even used full motion video. No build of the game that has been found, nor any footage, although one of the developers claims to have 2 VHS tapes which have footage of the game, although he cannot actually release them. So, Super Mario 128. Another piece of Mario lost media, this time a game under the working title of Super Mario 128, which led many to assume that it was a sequel to Mario 64. But at some point, all we have is the original tech demo from 2000, and no builds of the game have ever surfaced. Doraemon 1993. There is so much Doraemon lost media, so I'm not too sure what this one is exactly referring to.
So originally I couldn't really find anything on a specific piece of Doraemon lost media from this year, but that's because this is most likely a typo for Doraemon 1973, which is the first ever anime adaptation of the very popular Japanese manga. It had 26 episodes, which each had 2 segments, making for a total of 52 segments. However, as of now, only episode 18 as well as 20 through 26 have been found in their entirety, while the other episodes only have partially found material, including a few complete segments, and the others are just lost
Compilation commercial, sadly, but there is a lost commercial that happens to have a frame that was used for a cringe compilation meme, which became pretty popular actually, and is basically how this whole search started in the first place. And it's believed that this image originated from a commercial. There were other HP Shrek commercials from around that time, and despite other images from the ad being revealed, no footage from the actual commercial has been found as of yet. Groupie. So this is another one here that I've gotta kinda be careful about. Groupie is a short film that was created by the music artist Marilyn Manson at one of his house parties in the late do some really disturbing things. And this is only the stuff we know about. And yeah, I can't really go into too much more detail on that, but there isn't much of this film available at all. Only short clips that were featured in Manson's other projects. And apparently the film was so messed up that his former manager said if he were ever to release it, it would end his career or have him sent to jail. So, Zombie Nicktoons bumpers. These Halloween-themed Nicktoons bumpers from 2011 called Nicktoons Get Zombified were featured on the network for a very brief time, and showed many classic Nicktoons characters in zombie form, which was likely pretty scary for young audiences, and the bumpers were never aired after this, becoming lost media, like they actually were. Many different versions of this were thought to exist, including one for Fairly Odd Parents, Fanboy and Chum Chum, Mighty B, and even SpongeBob. And fairly recently, in 2022, these lost bumpers were actually found. And for kids programming, yeah, they are kinda creepy. Although some of the other alleged ones, like the SpongeBob one, have not been found. So it's unknown if they really do even exist. RZA Lost Songs. American rap artist and producer RZA.
So, I'm stupid. His name is actually pronounced RZA, not RZA. I'm dumb.
Others put the number closer to 500. And this was during the 90s. There weren't any backups.